David worked at a downtown law office. Nothing fancy, just a regular job handling paperwork and client files. He'd been there for 3 years, long enough to know everyone's coffee order and which printer always jammed. His life was simple and predictable. He liked it that way. He was engaged to his college girlfriend, Lisa. They'd been together for 6 years. The wedding was planned for April, just 5 months away. Her mother had already picked out flowers. His best friend had agreed to be the best man. Everything was set, moving forward like a train on tracks. That's when Rachel showed up. She joined the firm as a paralegal in September. Quiet professional, always dressed in simple clothes. She kept to herself mostly, eating lunch at her desk while everyone else went out. David noticed her because she seemed lonely. He knew what that felt like when he first started. One day he invited her to join the group for coffee. She hesitated but agreed. After that it became routine. She'd join them for breaks, contribute to conversations about cases, laugh at office jokes. She fit in, but there was always something distant about her, like she was holding back. David didn't think much of it. They became work friends. Nothing more. They'd discuss legal briefs, share frustrations about difficult clients, complain about the ancient computer system, normal office stuff. The partnership between them worked well. When David needed help organizing a complicated case, Rachel volunteered. When Rachel struggled with a particularly demanding attorney, David covered for her. It was the kind of friendship that made long workdays easier. Lisa knew about Rachel. David mentioned her the same way he mentioned anyone from work. Lisa had even met her once when she stopped by the office. There was nothing to hide. Then came that Thursday in late November. The weather had turned cold. Everyone was excited because Thanksgiving was next week. The office would be closed for 4 days. People were making travel plans, talking about family gatherings. David and Lisa were driving to her parents' house upstate. That Thursday afternoon, David was packing up his desk around 5 when Rachel approached. She looked pale, more tired than usual. Dark circles under her eyes he hadn't noticed before. "Hey, could you stay a bit late?" she asked. "I need help finishing this brief. It's due tomorrow morning and I'm way behind." David checked his phone. Lisa was working late too at the hospital where she was a nurse. He had no plans. Sure, no problem. The office emptied quickly. People rushing out, calling out goodbyes, excited for the long weekend ahead. Soon it was just David and Rachel, the only lights on in the entire floor. The heating system made strange clicking sounds. Outside, the city lights began to glow against the darkening sky. They worked side by side at Rachel's desk. David pulled up a chair. The brief was about a property dispute, boring technical stuff. They divided the sections, typed in silence, occasionally asking each other questions about formatting or case law citations. An hour passed. Then another. Around 7, David noticed Rachel's hands shaking. Just slightly, but enough to make her typing slow and awkward. She kept making mistakes, deleting sentences, retyping them. "You okay?" he asked. She didn't answer right away, just kept staring at her computer screen, her fingers frozen above the keyboard. "Rachel?" She turned to look at him. Her eyes were different. Red, wet, filled with something that made David's stomach tighten. Fear, maybe, or sadness so deep it didn't have a name. "I need to tell someone," she whispered. The office suddenly felt too quiet. The clicking of the heating system too loud. David could hear his own heartbeat. Tell someone what? Rachel's hands were trembling worse now. She pulled them into her lap, gripping them together to make them stop. Her breath came quick and shallow. "I'm sorry. I shouldn't. I barely know you, really. It's not fair to dump this on you." "Rachel, what's going on?" She closed her eyes, took a deep breath. When she opened them again, tears rolled down her cheeks. Then she leaned close. So close David could see the tiny freckles on her nose he'd never noticed. So close he could hear her breath catch in her throat. She whispered 5 words. "I'm dying. 6 months left." The air became too heavy to breathe. David sat frozen. His brain couldn't process the words. They didn't make sense. Rachel was 32 years old. She'd been laughing at a joke yesterday. She'd made plans to see some movie this weekend. People who were dying didn't do those things, did they? What? Pancreatic cancer. Stage 4. Diagnosed 8 weeks ago. The words fell between them like stones. David felt dizzy, like the floor had tilted, but, "You're so young." "Are they sure? Did you get a second opinion?" "3 opinions. All the same." Her voice was flat now, mechanical, like she'd said these words so many times they'd lost meaning. There's no treatment that will cure it. They can try chemo to maybe extend things a few months, but the side effects, I haven't decided yet. David didn't know what to say. What do you say to someone who just told you they're dying? Sorry seemed ridiculous. It'll be okay was a lie. He sat there stupid and silent. Why are you here? He finally asked. Why are you working if... What else would I do? Rachel laughed, but it came out broken. Sit at home and wait? Count down the days. At least here I feel normal. At least here people don't look at me like I'm already gone. Does anyone know? My family, my doctor. Now you. She wiped her face with the back of her hand. I don't know why I told you. I wasn't planning to. I've been carrying this alone for so long, pretending everything's fine, and today I just couldn't anymore. David reached out and took her hand. It felt cold, small, real. This wasn't some nightmare. This was actually happening. I'm glad you told me, he said quietly. You shouldn't have to carry this alone. They sat like that for a long moment, holding hands in the empty office. The city outside kept moving, people heading to dinner, to bars, to their homes. Life continuing while death waited in the shadows. Rachel pulled her hand away gently. I need to finish this brief. Forget the brief. No, I want to finish it. I want to keep working as long as I can, please. So they finished the brief. It took another hour. They didn't talk about cancer or dying or any of it. They just worked, focusing on words and paragraphs and legal arguments that suddenly seemed completely meaningless, but also strangely important. When they were done, Rachel saved the file and shut down her computer. Thank you, she said, for staying, for listening, for not making it weird. Do you want to get dinner or something? Talk more? She shook her head. I should go home. I'm tired, but maybe, could we have coffee tomorrow? Just coffee. I don't want everyone to know yet, but it would be nice to have someone who does. Someone I can talk to. Of course, anytime. David drove home in a daze. The streets blurred past. Red lights, green lights, cars honking. None of it registered. His mind kept replaying Rachel's whispered words. 6 months dying. Gone. When he got home, Lisa was already there, eating leftover pasta on the couch while watching some medical drama. Hey, how was work? She asked cheerfully. David opened his mouth to tell her, to explain what had just happened, but the words stuck in his throat. Rachel had trusted him. She'd specifically said she didn't want everyone to know. It wasn't his secret to share, just long. Had to help a colleague finish something. Well, come eat. I saved you some. He sat next to Lisa, forcing down food he couldn't taste. She talked about her day, a difficult patient, some drama between nurses. David nodded, made the right sounds, but his mind was somewhere else. That night, lying in bed next to Lisa, listening to her breathe in her sleep, David stared at the ceiling. He thought about Rachel, alone in her apartment, facing the end of her life. He thought about how fragile everything was, how quickly normal could shatter. He thought about the wedding in April. Would Rachel still be alive to see it? The question made him feel sick. Something had shifted that night. Some invisible line had been crossed. David didn't understand it yet, couldn't name it. But as he finally drifted into an uneasy sleep, he knew one thing for certain. Nothing would ever be the same again. The next morning, David met Rachel for coffee at the small cafe near their office. It was Friday, the day before Thanksgiving. The place was packed with people grabbing their last caffeine fix before the holiday weekend. They found a corner table away from the crowd. Rachel looked better than yesterday, or maybe she was just hiding it better. She'd put on makeup, pulled her hair back neatly. To anyone watching, they were just two coworkers having a casual chat. But nothing about this was casual. How are you feeling? David asked once they sat down. Rachel smiled sadly. That's going to be everyone's question if I tell them, isn't it? I'll become the sick girl. That's why I haven't said anything at work. You don't have to tell anyone until you're ready. I know, and thank you for not treating me differently today, for not looking at me like I'm breakable. They sipped their coffee in silence for a moment. Around them, people laughed, complained about traffic, made plans. Normal life happening while they sat in their bubble of abnormal. Can I ask you something? David said. And you don't have to answer if you don't want to. Go ahead. What's it like? Knowing? Rachel thought about it, stirring her coffee slowly. Weird. Liberating and terrifying at the same time. I don't waste time on stupid things anymore. I don't care about office politics or what people think of my clothes. But every morning I wake up and for just a second I forget. Then I remember. And it hits me all over again. I'm running out of time. Her voice cracked on the last word. David reached across the table, covered her hand with his. What can I do? How can I help? Just be normal with me. Talk to me about regular stuff. Let me complain about work and bad coffee and the weather. Let me forget sometimes. She looked up at him, eyes bright with unshed tears. But also, when I need to talk about it, when the weight gets too heavy, be there. Can you do that? Yes, absolutely, and that's how it started. Over the next few weeks, David became Rachel's secret keeper, her support system, her escape from the reality she couldn't change. They'd meet for coffee before work. Sometimes lunch. David found himself looking forward to these meetings, checking his phone for her messages. She'd text him random thoughts, fears, jokes that were too dark to share with anyone else. Rachel started chemotherapy in December. She told work she had some health issues that required treatment but didn't specify. David went with her to the first appointment, sat in the waiting room while poison dripped into her veins, trying to kill cancer cells faster than they could grow. She came out looking exhausted, gray. He drove her home, helped her up the stairs to her apartment, made sure she had everything she needed before leaving. You didn't have to do this, she said, lying on her couch with a blanket pulled up to her chin. I wanted to. And he did. That was the strange part. David genuinely wanted to be there for Rachel. Her situation made everything else seem trivial. Helping her felt important in a way his regular life didn't. Lisa noticed the change first. You've been distracted lately, she said one evening while they were addressing wedding invitations. Is everything okay at work? Yeah, fine. Just busy. It was the first lie, not a big one. But it opened the door for more, because David couldn't tell Lisa about Rachel. Rachel had made him promise. And even if she hadn't, how do you explain that you're spending time with another woman holding her hand, being there for her in ways that feel intimate even though they're not? The wedding planning continued. David went through the motions, tasting cakes, approving seating charts, nodding at flower arrangements. But his heart wasn't in it. His mind kept drifting to Rachel, wondering how she was feeling, if the chemo was working, if she was in pain. December turned into January. Rachel's hair started falling out. She bought a wig, made jokes about finally being able to change her look without commitment, but David saw the way she touched it self-consciously, the sadness in her eyes when she thought no one was watching. They spent more time together outside of work. David told Lisa he had extra projects, networking events, late meetings. More lies building like bricks in a wall between them. One Saturday afternoon, David was supposed to meet Lisa's parents to discuss rehearsal dinner details. Instead, he found himself sitting in Rachel's apartment, helping her organize photos into albums. I want to leave things organized, she explained, so my family doesn't have to deal with all my mess. She showed him pictures from college, from trips she'd taken, from a life that was about to end before it really got started. They laughed at bad haircuts and questionable fashion choices, but underneath the laughter was grief, heavy and unspoken. David's phone buzzed. Lisa. Where are you? We were supposed to meet my parents an hour ago. His stomach dropped. He'd completely forgotten. I'm so sorry. Emergency at work. I'll be there as soon as I can. Another lie. They came easier now. He made it to dinner 40 minutes late. Lisa's parents were polite but clearly annoyed. Lisa barely spoke to him the entire meal. On the drive home, she finally broke. What's going on with you? You've been so distant. You forget plans. You're always on your phone. Are you having second thoughts about the wedding? No, nothing like that. Then what? Because something is wrong, David. I can feel it, he wanted to tell her. The words were right there, pressing against his teeth. But he'd promised Rachel. And more than that, he didn't know how to explain what he was feeling, how being around Rachel made him feel more alive, more present, more needed than he'd felt in years. Work has been really stressful. There's this big case and I'm in over my head. I'm sorry I've been distracted. Lisa studied his face in the dim light from the street lamps passing by. You'd tell me if something was wrong, right? If there was something I should know? Of course, the lie tasted bitter. But he told it anyway. February came. Rachel's condition wasn't improving. The chemo was making her sick but not stopping the cancer. Her doctor suggested more aggressive treatment. But Rachel was hesitant. The quality of life versus quantity question. David found himself researching treatment options late at night, reading medical journals he barely understood, looking for hope in statistics that offered none. Lisa would wake up sometimes, find him at his laptop at 2 a.m. "Come to bed," she'd say sleepily. "Just finishing something." She stopped asking what. The distance between them grew, not dramatic, not with fights or accusations. Just a slow erosion like water wearing away stone. They'd sit in the same room, but David was somewhere else. With someone else. Rachel started missing work more often. David covered for her, took on her projects, made excuses to their boss. He'd visit her apartment after work, bringing soup she couldn't eat, sitting with her while she dozed off, leaving only when he had to. One evening in late February, Rachel was having a particularly bad day. The pain was worse, the medication wasn't helping. She cried in David's arms, scared and angry and so terribly sad. "I don't want to die," she sobbed. "I'm not ready. I haven't done anything yet. I haven't fallen in love. I haven't traveled to all the places I wanted to see. I haven't lived enough to die." David held her tighter, his own tears falling into her hair. "I know. I'm so sorry. This isn't fair. Promise me something," she whispered. "Promise me you won't waste your life. Don't take it for granted. Live it. Really live it. I promise." When he got home that night, Lisa was waiting up. She'd made tea, set out 2 cups. The apartment was quiet except for the hum of the refrigerator. "Sit down," she said gently. "We need to talk." David's heart raced. This was it. She knew somehow. She'd figured it out. "I found something today," Lisa continued. "When I was picking up your dry cleaning, a receipt fell out of your pocket. For flowers. Expensive ones. You didn't give them to me?" David's mouth went dry. "There's someone else, isn't there?" The question hung in the air between them. Lisa sat across from David at their kitchen table, hands wrapped around a mug of tea that had long gone cold. Her eyes were dry but sad, like she'd already cried all her tears before he got home. "It's not what you think," David said quietly. "Then tell me what it is, because I've been trying to figure this out for months. The late nights, the lies about work, the way you check your phone constantly, the way you're here but not really here." Her voice cracked. "Just tell me the truth." David took a deep breath. Rachel had said she didn't want anyone at work to know. But Lisa wasn't just anyone. And he couldn't keep lying, not when their relationship was falling apart because of it. "There is someone, but not like you think. Her name is Rachel. She works at my office." Lisa's face went pale. "How long?" "No, listen. It's not an affair. Rachel is. She's sick. Really sick. She has cancer. She's dying, Lisa, 6 months, maybe less. She told me back in November, and I've been helping her. Supporting her. That's all." Lisa stared at him, processing. Confusion replaced anger, but something else crept in too. Something harder to name. "Why didn't you tell me?" She didn't want anyone to know. "She made me promise. I'm not anyone. I'm your fiancé. We're supposed to be partners, David. You're supposed to tell me things like this." "I know. You're right. I should have." But it felt like her secret to share, not mine. Lisa stood up, paced to the window, stared out at the dark street below. "Those flowers, were they for her?" "She was having a bad day. I wanted to cheer her up." "And all those times you were late, forgot our plans, lied about where you were?" "I was with her. At doctor appointments, at her apartment when she was too sick to be alone." Lisa turned back to face him. "Do you love her?" The question hit like a punch. David opened his mouth to say no automatically, but the word wouldn't come. "I care about her. She's dying and she's alone and I'm trying to help." "That's not what I asked." Silence filled the kitchen. David couldn't answer because he didn't know. What he felt for Rachel was intense, consuming, but was it love, or was it something else? Compassion mixed with purpose? The thrill of being needed? "I don't know," he finally admitted. Lisa nodded slowly, like she'd expected that answer. "I think you should stay somewhere else tonight. Maybe a few nights. We both need space to think. Lisa, please, just go." David packed a bag, feeling numb. He drove to his brother's apartment across town, explained the situation in vague terms, crashed on the couch. But he couldn't sleep. His phone buzzed around midnight. "Rachel, you awake?" "Yeah, can't sleep. Pain is bad tonight. Want to talk?" He called her, spoke in whispers so he wouldn't wake his brother. Rachel's voice sounded tired, strained. They talked about nothing and everything. She told him about a dream she'd had about flying over the ocean. He told her about a case at work. Neither mentioned dying or cancer or time running out. Just normal conversation between friends, except it wasn't normal. Not anymore. Over the next week, David stayed at his brother's place. He and Lisa texted occasionally, polite and distant. She needed time, she said. He gave it to her, even though it felt like torture. He kept seeing Rachel, maybe more than before. Without having to hide it from Lisa, without the guilt of lying, he felt freer. They'd get dinner after her appointments, watch movies at her apartment, talk for hours about life, death, regrets, dreams. Rachel had stopped chemotherapy. The side effects were too much and the treatment wasn't working anyway. She'd decided to focus on living what time she had left rather than fighting a battle she couldn't win. "I'm scared," she admitted one night. They were sitting on her balcony wrapped in blankets against the March cold watching the city lights. "I know. I mean really scared. Not of dying exactly, more of being forgotten, of disappearing like I was never here." "You won't be forgotten." "How do you know? I don't have kids. I haven't written any books or painted any masterpieces. I'm just a paralegal who's going to die at 32. What mark do I leave on the world?" David thought about it. "You leave marks on people. I'm different because I knew you. Isn't that enough?" Rachel smiled sadly. "I hope so." A week later, Lisa called. She wanted to meet for coffee, talk things through. David agreed immediately, hope flickering in his chest. They met at a neutral place, not their usual spots. Lisa looked tired but composed. She'd clearly been thinking hard about this. "I believe you," she started, "that you're not having a physical affair, I do. But David, you're having an emotional one. You've given Rachel parts of yourself that used to belong to us. Your time, your energy, your emotional availability. Do you understand that?" David wanted to argue, but he couldn't. She was right. "She's dying, Lisa. What am I supposed to do? Abandon her?" "No, but you're not supposed to abandon me either." Lisa's eyes filled with tears. "I've felt like a ghost in your life for months. You look at her the way you used to look at me. You make time for her that you can't make for me. You're more emotionally intimate with her than you've been with me in over a year. That's not fair. The circumstances are completely different." "Are they? Because from where I'm sitting, you're choosing her over me every single day." The conversation went in circles. Lisa wanted David to set boundaries with Rachel. David felt that was cruel given Rachel's situation. Lisa said she understood the tragedy, but she also needed to protect herself, her relationship, her future. "I can't marry you while you're this involved with her," Lisa finally said. "It's not that I don't sympathize with Rachel's situation. I do, it's horrible. But I also can't be third priority in my own relationship." "So what are you saying?" "I'm saying the wedding is postponed, indefinitely, until you figure out what you actually want, who you want to be with, if it's even possible for you to be fully present with me again." David felt like the ground had dropped out from under him. "You're calling off the wedding?" "I'm postponing it." "There's a difference. I love you, David, but I won't compete with someone who's dying for your attention. That's not a competition I can win, and it's not one I should have to be in." They talked for another hour, but nothing changed. Lisa had made her decision. She needed space, real space this time. She wanted David to really examine what he was doing, what he wanted, where this was all heading. David left feeling hollowed out. He'd been so focused on helping Rachel that he hadn't seen the damage he was doing to his own life, his own relationship. That night, he sat in his brother's apartment, staring at his phone. Rachel's contact on one side, Lisa's on the other. Two women, two different futures pulling him in opposite directions. His brother came out of his bedroom, saw David's face. "You look like someone just ran over your dog." Lisa postponed the wedding. "Damn, sorry, man." His brother grabbed a beer from the fridge, offered one to David. "Can I ask you something?" "Sure. This Rachel woman, if she wasn't sick, would you still be doing all this? Spending all this time with her? Prioritizing her over your fiancé?" David didn't answer. "Because here's the thing," his brother continued. "Sometimes we use other people's tragedies to avoid dealing with our own stuff. You've been with Lisa for 6 years. Wedding's coming up. That's scary, man. That's real commitment, real adult life. And along comes this situation that gives you a perfect excuse to not deal with it. That's not what I'm doing, isn't it? Think about it. Rachel needs you. She's dying. You're the hero, the good guy helping her. It feels important, urgent, meaningful. Way more exciting than wedding planning and mortgage talks and all the boring stuff that comes with real long-term commitment. The words stung because somewhere deep down David knew they were true, or partially true. His feelings were more complicated than that, but his brother had a point. So what do I do? That's up to you. But you need to figure out what you're actually feeling. Are you in love with Rachel? Or are you in love with feeling needed? Because if she wasn't dying, would you still want her? Or would she just be another coworker you grab coffee with sometimes? David spent the night wrestling with those questions. When morning came, he still didn't have good answers. April arrived with unexpected warmth. Trees bloomed, people shed their winter coats, life renewed itself. Rachel got worse. She'd lost significant weight. The cancer had spread aggressively. Her doctor said weeks now, maybe a month. They'd started hospice care. Rachel had moved back in with her parents so they could help take care of her. David visited her there. Her childhood home was a modest house in the suburbs, filled with photos of Rachel at every age. Smiling, gap-toothed at 6, awkward in braces at 13, proud in her college graduation robe, a whole life captured on walls, a life about to end. Her mother answered the door the first time David came. "You must be David. Rachel talks about you constantly." She smiled, but her eyes were exhausted, grief-worn. "She's in her old room, top of the stairs, second door on the right." He found Rachel propped up in bed, surrounded by pillows, looking tiny and fragile. But she smiled when she saw him. "You came." "Of course I came." They'd told work about her condition. There was no hiding it anymore. People sent cards, flowers, messages of support. Some visited, though most stayed away. Death makes people uncomfortable. They don't know what to say, so they say nothing. But David came several times a week. Sometimes they talked. Sometimes Rachel was too tired and David just sat quietly, reading or working on his laptop, being present. Lisa knew he was still visiting Rachel. They'd been in therapy, trying to work through their issues. The therapist asked difficult questions that neither of them wanted to answer.
"David, why is supporting Rachel more important than rebuilding trust with Lisa? Lisa, are you willing to accept that David may have complicated feelings about this situation? David, what happens after Rachel passes? Will you be able to fully commit to Lisa then?" That last question haunted him.
Because the truth was he didn't know. Rachel's dying had consumed him so completely that he hadn't thought about after. What would his life look like when she was gone? Would he and Lisa be able to repair what had broken between them? Or had too much damage been done? One evening in mid-April, David sat with Rachel on her parents' back porch. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Rachel was wrapped in blankets despite the mild temperature. She always felt cold now. "I need to tell you something," she said quietly. "What?" "I'm sorry." "For what?" "For this. For becoming such a big part of your life. For causing problems between you and Lisa. That was never my intention." "You didn't cause anything. I made my own choices. But I let you. I knew what I was doing, David. I knew I was leaning on you too much, taking too much of your time and energy. But I was selfish. I was scared and alone, and you made me feel less alone. So I let you give me more than I should have taken." Her honesty cut deep. "I wanted to be there for you. I still do. I know, and I'm grateful. But I also know I'm leaving soon, and you're not. You have to keep living after I'm gone. And I don't want you to waste that life because of me." She turned to look at him, eyes serious. "Lisa is good for you. She's solid, real, the kind of person who builds a life with you. Don't lose her because of me. It's not that simple, isn't it? You love her. I know you do. You've just been confused because this situation is so intense, so overwhelming. Death does that. It magnifies everything, makes everything feel more important, more urgent. But it distorts things too. David wanted to argue, but he couldn't find the words. "Can I tell you something else?" Rachel continued. "Something I've never told you? Anything. I had feelings for you. Real ones. I knew you were engaged, knew nothing could happen, but I couldn't help it. You were kind to me when I needed kindness. You made me feel seen. And in some alternate universe where I wasn't dying, where we'd met under different circumstances, maybe something could have happened between us." She smiled sadly. "But this isn't that universe. You're not mine, David. And I'm not going to be here much longer, so please let me go. Not as a friend, you can still visit. But let go of whatever else this has become, whatever complicated feelings are tangled up in this. Let them go so you can live your life." They sat in silence, watching the sun disappear below the horizon. David felt something breaking inside him, something that needed to break. "I think I've been using your dying as an excuse," he said finally. "An excuse to not deal with my own. Fears about commitment, about marriage, about becoming my father, who lived his whole life stuck in a job he hated and a marriage that was just fine. Not great, not terrible, just fine. And I was terrified of that being my future. And now? Now I realize that fine is what you make it. Lisa and I had gotten comfortable, lazy maybe, but that doesn't mean we can't be great again. We just have to work at it, choose it actively instead of just letting it happen." Rachel squeezed his hand. "I'm glad you're figuring this out, I really am." That weekend, David called Lisa. They met at the park where they'd had their first date 6 years ago. Trees in full bloom, kids playing on swings, couples walking dogs, normal spring day things. "I've been doing a lot of thinking," David started. "And you were right. About everything. I've been having an emotional affair with Rachel, not intentionally, not maliciously, but that's what it was. I gave her parts of myself that should have belonged to you, and I'm sorry." Lisa listened without interrupting. "I think I got lost in the intensity of her situation. It felt important in a way that everyday life doesn't. Being there for someone who's dying, it made me feel needed, purposeful. And I used that to avoid dealing with the fact that I was scared of marriage, of commitment, of building a normal, boring life. And now I want to stop being scared. I want to choose you, actively and intentionally. Not because Rachel's dying and you're the backup option, but because you're who I want to build a life with. The boring parts and the exciting parts, all of it." Lisa was quiet for a long moment. "I want to believe you. But David, how do I know you won't do this again? Next time there's a crisis or something intense or a reason to check out of our relationship, how do I know you'll stay?" "You don't, and I don't. I can only promise to try, to be honest, to talk to you instead of hiding, to go to therapy, to do the work." He took her hands. "I know I've damaged your trust. I know sorry isn't enough. But I'm asking for a chance to rebuild it, if you're willing." Lisa looked at their joined hands, at the ring she'd stopped wearing a month ago. "I don't know if I'm ready to set a new wedding date. That's okay. We can take it slow. And I need you to finish saying goodbye to Rachel. Really finish. Be there for her as she's dying, but also start letting go. Start coming back to us." "I will. I am." They sat on that park bench for a long time, talking about everything. The pain, the confusion, what they both wanted, what scared them. It wasn't easy. There were tears and hard truths and moments of doubt. But underneath it all was something solid, something worth fighting for. That night, David went home. Their home, not his brother's couch. Lisa had agreed to try again, slowly, carefully. They ordered takeout, watched a movie, fell asleep on the couch together like they used to. It felt like coming home after a long, confusing trip.